Hello everybody and welcome to this Assystem Insight event. My name's Sophie and I'm going to be your event host for today. I'm going to move through the event with you and put your questions to our speakers as well. Since this is our first live session of the day though, I just want to double check that you can see me and hear me okay. So if you could use the Q&A box just below where you're watching this video to type me a quick message, just hi, hello, anything like that, then we can get started. Perfect. Thank you very much, Lucy. Fantastic. So you're going to hear a lightning fast welcome talk from me before I hand over to Simon, who's the UK Managing Director, and he's going to give everyone an introduction to Assystem. So firstly, here's a quick look at our agenda. So all the presentations that are happening today are going to take place right here in the live presentations area. So keep coming back here throughout today's events. The agenda can be found at any time on the general info tab. And we will hear 3 presentations, 1 p.m, 1:15 and 1:30. Then at 2 p.m, you're going to hear some insights followed by a Q&A session. And then we're going to have our panel discussion at 2:40 p.m. This event is a really unique opportunity for you to put your questions to so many people working in nuclear on so many different areas and at so many different levels. So please take full advantage of that question and answer box today. From 3:10 until 5 p.m, you'll get to take all that knowledge that you've gathered today during the talks, the Q&A, the panel, and you'll get to use that to spur you on to carry out your research, apply for the job role that's listed, and to start chats with the recruiters on their ASYS Virtual STEM store. If you're a 2021 grad or you've already graduated, you should also have your 15-minute slot booked as well. If you don't have that booked, do not panic. Just head on over to the STEM Women Help Desk and we'll be able to help you with that. Or of course, you can use the chat function on the stall at any time today up until 5 p.m. A very quick platform guide. As I mentioned before, you can see the agenda under general info. If you click the companies tab, you can get to the Assystem virtual store that way. And that's also how you'd get to the help desk I just mentioned as well. You can check out that graduate scheme and apply to it under the jobs tab. And you can start chats with the recruitment team at the stall on that virtual stand. And we've already covered that 15-minute slot as well. Finally, please do follow along with us on social media today using the hashtag on this slide. You can also see all of the social handles for ourselves and Assystem there as well. So enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Simon, who's kindly taken time out of his schedule today to officially open this event. Thank you, Simon.
Good afternoon. Hopefully everyone can see me and hear me, which would be, I think a combination of the two would be the best. Thank you, Sophie. That was a really helpful introduction. And I know you've got a great afternoon ahead of you, and a lot of my colleagues will be talking to you lately, and they'll later, and they'll do so far better than I can, because yeah, they're sort of our experts in certain areas, and they'll give you some really great insights. But I just wanted to take about 10 minutes really, just to sort of, I guess, talk a bit about why we're doing this event, why nuclear, why Assystem. And hopefully put a few of those things together to set some context for the rest of the day. Just a bit about me first. I mean, I've actually worked in the nuclear sector for probably longer than I care to imagine. It's got 25 years now. But I was also sponsored through my degree by what's now EDF UK, the company that runs the existing nuclear power stations in the UK. So I was sponsored by their predecessor, Nuclear Electric, and you know, through my degree, my physics degree, I ended up working on a number of nuclear sites, and I think it was that real insight and into how power stations operate, and you know, the culture that's on them, and I think the challenges and the diverse range of technical and engineering skills that you know, these plants present. Just well, here I am. I'm still here, and I frankly wouldn't want to work anywhere else, if I'm being honest. It's an industry that's you know, personally, it's really close to my heart. I believe passionately in it, and that's why I think the announcements that came out of UK government in November, and then the white paper in early December, which was really Boris Johnson and his cabinet setting out how government is going to achieve its net zero ambitions. And of course, you'll be aware that the UK was the first country to put into law that we will decarbonise and get to net zero by 2050. And that's great, and that's fantastic news. But it was always a statement that was kind of left hanging, because until you sort out electricity and heat and transport, then you don't really have that pathway through to achieving that. So the announcements of the Green Industrial Plan and its 10 points, which revolved around all of those things, around energy, around transport, around heat, was really important. And then we've had the Energy White Paper that starts to bring a lot of those things through into law. And it's really important for nuclear. So whilst behind the scenes, nuclear has enjoyed some fantastic cross-party support from government. In fact, the vote on new nuclear builds several years ago had the highest majority vote since the decision to declare war on Germany back in 1939. So that's unified support to nuclear, and its recognition of its low carbon credentials has always been talked about in government in recent years. But to actually have that enshrined in policy now is fantastic. And to have, at the time, Alok Sharma, the energy minister, to say nuclear is an essential part of our energy mix going forwards is really exciting. And of course, in new nuclear, we have in the UK, we have Hinkley Point C under construction today. We hope in the future we'll have Sizewell C, and that will open the doors for other large-scale nuclear plants. And we also have small modular reactors, and we also have fusion. So thinking about future technologies and changes in the energy system and the energy infrastructure, it's almost completely different to how it was 30 or 40 years ago. And there's a really interesting statistic that still hurts my brain. And that is, by the time we get to 2050, when we will have decarbonised, fundamentally, nothing that is generating electricity today will be operating. So our entire electricity system will be new. And I just find that absolutely crazy to get my head around. But it just, I think, accentuates the scale of the challenge that we face, and also that new nuclear is a part of that. It's complementary to wind and solar. And fundamentally, it's necessary to deliver an affordable, low carbon energy system. So where do Assystem fit into all this? Well, I look after Assystem in the UK, and we're part of a global organisation of just over 6,000 people. So we're the second largest nuclear engineering company in the world. We've got huge ambitions to grow in the UK. So part of my challenge as managing director is to develop and grow the UK team and the capabilities that we have and the capacity and the expertise, so that we can actually deliver on the UK government's ambitions. And it's great having that that sort of, we're relatively small. We're several hundred people in the UK, but we're growing very, very rapidly. But we've got that sort of big company feel, in the sense that we can reach back into our parent organisation, and there are opportunities to draw in expertise, to work on different projects, and to really gather that international experience, and help to deliver that in the UK. So it's an exciting time. Personally, I've only joined Assystem 5-6 months ago, in September actually. So I know I've got a great team, because I talk to them all on Teams and Zoom, but I've not met them face to face yet, which is a little challenging. But what I do see is a team that's really passionate about what it does. It's got a very strong sense of identity and culture within our DNA, and they're good people too. So one thing I'm looking forward to is being able to obviously have those direct face-to-face discussions with people. And we have some really exciting agenda items here that are directly important to this, and this is why I think working with STEM on this particular topic is is great for us, and we're really well aligned in what we are trying to achieve. So we have two programs running at the moment. We have our global program called Incredible Women, which is all about attracting professional women and new graduates through into Assystem. So it's about career change and sort of saying, well, if you want to work in renewable energies, actually offshore or solar, there isn't really that many jobs, certainly not from a design point of view or an engineering or delivery or a construction point of view. They're quite commoditized, but in nuclear, the scale and the complexity of the projects really gives such a great grounding in the science and technology and engineering subjects. And there really are career length opportunities here in an industry that is growing. So I think we stand out for several reasons. I think one, the scale of what we do. Two, the fact we get involved in really exciting projects. So today we are directly involved in the ITER fusion project in the south of France. We've been involved in Baraka, which is the United Arab Emirates' first new nuclear plant. We're starting to get involved with EDF in India on the Jaitapur reactor. And we also have presence in places that you perhaps wouldn't necessarily link with nuclear, places like Egypt and Uzbekistan that are looking to develop new nuclear for the first time. Turkey, which has its first plant under construction. And then some of the countries in Eastern Europe where they have existing nuclear plants, but they're now reaching the ends of their life and they're thinking about replacement and going for new nuclear to replace the existing generation plants. So we're active in all those markets, and of course in France, where we're based. And in the UK, we're directly involved in delivering Hinkley Point C. We're having some good conversations around Sizewell C, and we're one of the partners to Rolls-Royce in small modular reactors. And we're starting to work with the UK's Atomic Energy Authority. And UK AEA have got funding at the moment to develop the world's first commercial fusion reactor. So it's a long journey, but they're starting to explore the technical issues and constraints and how they could deliver a commercially viable fusion plant. So you can see that there's lots going on, and I haven't really touched on anything that we're doing in decommissioning, which is the process to take apart the legacy reactors and other facilities we've had in the UK. I haven't really touched on that at all. I haven't really touched on defence, and I haven't really touched on medical radioisotopes and how we deliver the radioisotopes in the UK that are used in diagnostic and therapeutic treatments for cancers, for example. So it's a really broad and diverse field. And I know through today you will find out more about Assystem, about who we are, what makes us who we are, because for me personally, that's key to any company. Why join Assystem rather than any one of our competitors? And there's that sort of real sense of purpose, of believing that nuclear is the right thing to do. But really importantly, it's about collaboration and teamwork and learning from others, and being able to apply that and apply your knowledge into some pretty exciting projects, in my view. So I'm going to hand back to Sophie. I'm going to say enjoy your afternoon. I hope you get what you want out of it. And I know this is virtual, but I am available. And if you'd like to make contact with me either through LinkedIn afterwards, I'd be happy to talk and happy to listen and answer any questions that you may have. So over to you. It's your day. Thank you very much. And I hope you enjoy it and get what you want from it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simon, for that fabulous overview. So, okay, everyone, if you just wait where you are, we will be back very shortly with a talk from Emma Gibbons, who's the HR director. But for now, we're going to pop off live. See you shortly.
Sophie, just 1 second, sorry.
And there's live now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back again. I'm now joined with Emma Gibbons, the HR Director at Assystem, and she's going to be giving us an insight into the people at Assystem. So I'll hand over to you, Emma.
Thank you, Sophie. Hi, everybody. It's lovely to have the opportunity to take part in such a great event, and I am very excited for all of you with the potential opportunities that you've got available for you and ahead of you, hopefully within Assystem going forward in your careers. So hopefully I can give you some useful information on our people, because if you're anything like me looking to join a business, you would of course want to know what the people culture is like and what that is made up on. I did see some of Simon, our MD's presentation just then, and he's touched slightly on sort of the culture that we operate in, so I thought it would be really good to share some more information with you on that. So I suppose basically, you need to know what kind of culture we operate in. So I'll talk a little bit today about the Assystem culture in both the UK and globally, to give you some insight onto how my colleagues would describe our culture. So I think that will be really useful to you. Also, I know Simon touched on this earlier in his presentation, but we're running an amazing campaign at the moment within the UK business called #IncredibleWomen. And my team, funnily enough, is made up of, the majority of them are women, and they are taking part in this great campaign. But it's a wonderful campaign that I'd like to give you a bit more detail of later on in the talk. There's another great model that we work to, that's a group-wide international model that's been created by group collaboratively with all of the entities across the international business, and that's the leadership model. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that, just to give you some insight onto how that may affect you within your experience of Assystem, and I'll give you some more detail on that. And again, that links us back to our culture and what we think are key attributes and behaviours for our staff. So hopefully we'll give you some really worthwhile insight into how we operate and how we work together. And last but definitely not least, I'd like to talk to you about employee engagement, which is of course key. And most importantly for any of us, especially at the moment, is employee wellbeing and engagement. So I will talk briefly about those as well, time permitting. So culture. So this is a big topic that I'm trying to condense into a couple of minutes, but where we strive to be in Assystem is, we want people to strive to work for Assystem business. I joined the business 3 years ago, this January gone, and I have seen the UK business go from strength to strength and really evolve and change in such a positive way, as well as, at group levels. So I can hand on heart tell you that I find it an amazing place to work. It's very inspiring. There are some amazing people working in Assystem, and I think that we are really good at recognising great people, and that we recruit great people with the right attitudes and behaviours. And for that reason, we're very people focused, because without them, we ultimately don't have a business. It's a capability that we need ultimately. So it's people like yourselves and what you bring in your ideas that makes us the business that we are. So we do operate an open door policy. So for those of you who maybe haven't heard of that saying before, it might be an older saying, I don't know, but there's no door slammed shut for anybody. Everybody's accessible. You'll have heard Simon say earlier that he's welcome to you linking in with him. I'm the same. And everybody is important in the business, and everybody's ideas are valued. So it's absolutely an open door policy. Doors are only closed if there's a meeting going on and you just can't reach somebody. But now we're all virtual, more or less, at the moment, then you'll definitely find everybody's accessible. You don't have to jump through lots of hoops to talk to the right person, which I find really helpful. I think it goes without saying that my colleagues are very hardworking. So we have, of course, everybody's endured some tough times, it's fair to say, in 2020, and I am amazingly proud of my colleagues in Assystem across, you know, the international group and also the UK colleagues in how they've handled themselves and have remained so hardworking through really testing situations, having to work from home with family around, you know, dogs barking, etc. And everyone's just really mucked in and got on with it and worked together to support each other. So you'd be joining a very hardworking team that, you know, are all striving toward the same goals and ambitions. And for that reason, we need to work as one team. So there's a saying in Assystem that we are one team. You know, HR, the international HR team, we're always in communication via email or different meetings that we have. And it's a real collaborative approach where we share ideas, best practice across the different entities. What might work great in one entity might need to be tweaked slightly for a different country, but that's all fine. And we really do approach our work as one team, both locally in the UK and also internationally. I think it's fair to say we're a supportive bunch, but of course I would say that being in the HR function, we do have a supportive culture, and if anyone's ever struggling or doesn't feel that they may be getting the support they might have expected, as soon as that is flagged, we would absolutely work to rectify that. And I have also been asking some of my new starters in my local team how they feel the culture is, and they all agreed that it is a supportive business to join, which is really great because it's not just me saying it who's been here 3 years and works in HR. So obviously that's my aim, to have that culture. And hopefully you'd find, you know, that everybody's approachable. So there's nobody that you wouldn't want to have a Teams video call with, etc. So hopefully that would help you and give you a positive message for your experience with us. So this is my big excitement at the moment for our international and local business in the UK. It's a campaign called Incredible Women. And I just find it amazing, and I've loved the excitement and the enthusiasm it sparked within a lot of my female colleagues in the local office that I work within, and beyond that. And you know, and also my male colleagues as well have been very engaged in this activity and really supportive of it, which is of course amazing and really well received. So our corporate gender diversity programme is really looking to increase the amount of females that we have in the nuclear sector. So it's kind of, well, how do we do that? So our strategy is built upon 3 key pillars, being, and Simon touched on this just briefly earlier, we ultimately need to recruit more females, and we want to raise awareness with young and older females that there are opportunities in the nuclear industry that are available to them. So this might be, one example is we're reaching out to primary schools and to high schools for STEM activities to really promote and build up awareness amongst young girls and boys about the opportunities available to them in their future. If they choose to do a certain type of degree, etc. So we really want to recruit more females. We also need to retain them, and we want to retain those we already have. So how would we do this? So we want to give them a reason to stay with us, because we can do lots of work to recruit great female candidates, but well, any candidate, but how do we then retain them? We need to deliver on our promises from the interview experience. So we've worked on maternity policies and really improved those over recent years. We're doing a lot of work on mentoring and coaching and leadership programs, some of which are geared towards our female colleagues. And we've really been making great strides towards building a really supportive and collaborative female network of our incredible women. So this year's cohort have had the opportunity to meet together and have really great workshops, some of which I've been involved with, where we've shared training on how to have a difficult conversation. We've covered things such as imposter syndrome, all sorts of interesting topics that might not be as appropriate to some of our male colleagues throughout their career experience. So, but they've been involved in those also. And we've also made sure that we've got some executive mentors around to really help support our colleagues and ensure that they feel like they've got a real strong career pathway ahead of them within Assystem, so that we don't lose such great great colleagues along their career journey. And then we want to evolve the ones that we have. So people that we already have in our employment, we want to keep them no matter who they are. We want to ensure that we have strong career pathways for all colleagues, so that if they have that ambition, that they feel strongly that they can take that forward within Assystem, and they don't need to move on elsewhere to exceed all their own expectations of themselves. So we really want to make sure that they have access to great senior positions. And it's a real testament to the UK business how many females are on our senior leadership team in the UK. It's great. You know, I'm not the only female around the table, which I hope gives you all a positive message as well. A really important factor to just cover hopefully quickly is the leadership model. So we use this model, and this has been brought together collaboratively across all entities, and this model is used for recruitment exercises. So it's really useful for me to share this with you should you apply for our positions, and it covers enthusiasm, agility and endurance, and also key behaviours such as to dare, which can worry some people working in the nuclear sector, you know, that don't want to maybe take too many risks. So of course I'll explain a little bit better about that. To be a team player, you know, Simon mentioned this earlier, we're no one if we're not part of a team. We need to all work collectively together and have the same end goal to really help support each other within Assystem, and we view that as a real key attribute and behaviour. To be client oriented and also to be results oriented, and we feel that those 4 behaviours and 3 personal attributes really do mould the perfect candidate and employee within Assystem. So with enthusiasm, of course, I'm talking about energy, the drive to succeed, all of those great qualities in a person. Agility, so we've all had to be somewhat more agile than maybe previously within Assystem at the moment, but you know, really being flexible on your approach and how you might have a different approach depending on who you're in a meeting with or which customer you're dealing with, but also maybe reprioritising your workload at any given time due to the nature that the business and what it needs you to prioritise at any one time. So that's quite key. And endurance, you know, it goes without saying, we look to support our staff to be, you know, great with their endurance, and we offer a lot of support with that because there is a lot going on at the moment, and we do want to make sure that you know, we support staff with that key personal attribute. So to dare, really, you know, in my plain English, that means don't be frightened around the team meeting table to raise your hand if you've got an idea of how we could be doing something better. And I think there are a lot of shy people in this world that always feel like the people around the table know much better than they do and how to do something, and are fearful of raising the hand for fear of looking a bit foolish or asking a question that might have already been asked, or an idea that they maybe don't feel is good enough. We don't want anyone to feel like that. You know, we want you to join us and share your passion for the industry, to share your ideas, because, you know, if you can think of a better way to do things, we might have already considered it, but you don't know that. So please let us know anyway. And we might not have already considered it, and you might, you know, get a round of applause and our support to help take that idea forward. So that's really what we're looking at with to dare. You know, dare to be innovative, dare to raise your hand with an idea, and speak out for what you really believe for the good of yourself and the business. I'm very conscious of time, sorry, so I'll move along. I suppose, you know, there's a lot of talk in the media and across all sectors at the moment about employee well-being, and I know this week is Child Mental Health Week, which, you know, I'm conscious of. I'm a working mum myself. But one thing we take extremely seriously at Assystem is our employee well-being. And part of that is making sure that our employees feel engaged with the business. So even though I've been sat in my little home office for the past part of 12 months, you know, totally remote from anyone I work alongside or with, then, you know, that I feel absolutely engaged with my business. I see different faces every day on my Teams calls, but I also feel still very much part of the core of Assystem. So we make great work with the Employee Engagement Committee. We have a committee that's a real good cross-section across all the areas of the business, different site locations, sort of north, south, east to west. We have a representative to share ideas on how we can improve engagement, maybe improve terms and conditions for staff, working conditions, do great fundraising, all sorts of things that are really, really great at creating a wonderful environment to work within. You know, it's beyond just the day-to-day duties, and really making sure that staff feel heard, and it's a two-way communication process, so staff are able to feed in any ideas through that committee. And we've done some great work over the past 3 years whilst we've had that, and we've had some really great employee engagement survey results just this year in the pandemic, which for me, you know, hopefully shares a great positive message with you all about how our staff feel about their employee engagement. We do like to keep in touch with our staff, and that doesn't mean we're going to micromanage everybody, you know, and ask you to call us morning, noon and night. But what's great for those that may end up working remotely with us, you've got lots of different platforms for communication. We have a wonderful communications team as well that helps support functions like mine in sharing what's going on across the business. But we use a platform called Yammer, and for those of you who haven't come across that, it's basically, I explain it to my kids, it's like Facebook, but for work. So we can post lots of different exciting news on there, both personal and work news. You know, if somebody's had a baby or got married or retiring, we share that kind of news, but we also share when we've won a really great, exciting project, or there's an interesting article, or we share across the entities on there as well. And of course, we use Teams, Skype and Outlook, you know, the good old reliable email service as well. So I suppose for me, I just really wanted to emphasise the people focus that Assystem have. I am very proud to work for Assystem. We have a great team of people working with us that want everybody to succeed and do well and really exceed any expectations they had on themselves. So, you know, I hope that you have taken some positives from me and my presentation, and that, you know, I've given you enough information to feel really energized and desperate to work for us, because I think there's some amazing opportunities available for people such as yourselves, and obviously you've all had a tough time as well at this stage in your studies. So if there is anything I can maybe help you with, or you just want to drop me a message like Simon said earlier, more than happy to link in with you. And I'm sure you can sort of access however suits, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. But yeah, have a great afternoon. You're going to talk to some of my recruitment team later, so let me know how they get on, but I'm sure they'll be great, and we'll answer any questions you've got. But have a great afternoon, and thank you, Sophie, for inviting me to take part.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that information, Emma. It was really illuminating. Absolutely love that yourself and Simon are asking the attendees if they want to connect on LinkedIn as well. I think that's really indicative of your supportive, approachable culture. So absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm going to stop this live stream here, guys, and we will be back super shortly to hear some insights from some women who are working.
Take care.
Shall I start?
We'll introduce us and then we can get started. Hello everybody, welcome back. I am joined with Amna, who's a graduate engineer at Assystem. We're going to hear some insights from Amna and from two other women working at Assystem as well. And then at the end, we're going to have time for a Q&A. So as you're listening to all the insights and the talks, please get those questions in nice and early. If you see another question that you'd like me to put to the speakers, please upvote it and I will ask it at the end. Over to you, Amna.
Thank you. Hiya guys, my name's Amna Jalani. I studied in University of Bradford and I graduated with a first class in mechanical engineering with an industrial placement year as well. So the process of me applying for jobs was quite long-winded. I'm sure you guys are going through that now, but the question is, why nuclear? I didn't set myself out for nuclear engineering. It's something that found me. I applied for all sorts of jobs that I could find, any graduate positions, and eventually I just lucky, and that's what happens. You put in 100 applications and you get 10 back to you, and then you pass one interview maybe. So thankfully I passed my interview, and I've been working with Assystem for the past 2 years now. I've technically just finished my graduate kind of position, and I'm looking to get a promotion this month hopefully, so fingers crossed. So my time here with Assystem has been great. I've been learning so much. So I'm currently based in Derby, and I have had the chance to work both within the office and on site on our customer site. So that's a lot of pressure, I guess, because you know you're in front of the customer every single day. You're walking and talking. You're doing everything in front of them. They can see you working. So it's a lot of pressure. You liaise with them, build up relationships, and network. So I've had a good chance at building those, and I've learned so much. So with our system, what I've really enjoyed is the appraisal system that we have. So with the appraisal system, we get a chance. We always have a chance to speak with your manager, but we have a formal kind of chat with your manager. You'll set some targets for yourself, and during this chat, you can kind of express where you've not really, done so well, or what interests you found. So at the start of the year, my first year here, I did a lot of stress calculations. I also did some design works, and now recently I've done on tolerance stack. So in my appraisal, I've told my manager that I don't really fancy doing any more tolerance stack ups. I'd like to eventually move on to something else. And through our appraisal, you can kind of guide where you work, which is really, really handy for me, because I'm getting great exposure to different projects, different teams, and it allows you to build up your experience. So that's been a big highlight and a big positive of my graduate experience. I've had a lot of support from my line manager, project managers. Everyone kind of is in here to help you and to guide you. And yeah, so I've really enjoyed my time here. Most recently, due to the Women in Engineering group, I've received a mentor, and that's Fanny, who will be speaking later on. And through this mentorship that we have started, I can bring up any issues that I'm finding with work, outside of work, any issues with work, anything that I'd like to do, both in and out of work. It's sometimes you don't really get a chance to talk to your manager like that. So having a mentor who says from the get-go that this is a two-way relationship is amazing. So my biggest highlight, I'd have to say, is having a great support system within our system. And as a graduate, I think it's really nice to have that, because you've got people to fall back on and not to depend. Sophie, back to you.
Oh, Sophie, I'll step in directly.
Hello, sorry. Thank you so much. I'm so excited by what you just said. So do I have a mentor and a mentee in here? That's never happened before. Oh, we're gonna have so much to talk about in the Q&A, but yes. So now we have Fanny, who's a mechanical engineer at Assystem, and she's gonna be giving us insights as well. Thank you so much, Amna.
Thank you.
Cheers, Amna, and cheers, Sophie. So yeah, as Amna said, I am a mentor and she's my mentee. So we just started this program and I'm really excited about it. I know how good it is to sometimes have a mentor to help you answer some kind of question that you feel are sometimes stupid, but they never are stupid questions. And it's also helping you sometimes having a look back into what you do and what you worry about and things like that. So I'm quite excited to get that going. So as Sophie said, I'm a senior mechanical engineer at Assystem. I started studying mechanical engineering at university back in France. So I'm French and I've studied in France. I graduated with a master's degree in mechanical engineering. And because of the location of my university in France, it was really close to a big aeronautical like pool of industries and companies. So a lot of the project we were doing at uni were around planes and aeronautics, and I didn't really enjoy that much. And I've always was more curious about the energy side of the if you want, of the engineering, and how you generate electricity and things like that, and how you can help generating power, but without having such a great impact on a planet, was also something that I had in the back of my mind. And similar as to I started applying for jobs when I graduated and having some experience, and I came across an opportunity within Assystem in France to work on the ITER project, which is a fusion nuclear reactor that is currently being built in France. So it's a really large project. It's more R&D than a normal nuclear fission plant. Sorry, and it was what interested me in that opportunity was really that kind of really innovative solution and new project and never been done before. And the promise that fusion energy is, less impact onto our planets than any other energy that can be produced. It's just that the feasibility still need to be investigated, and thinking that I could contribute to that and have this positive impact really drive me through. So I applied for the job, I got the job, and I started my career at Assystem about 8 years ago now. After a year working in France, I was still young and I was still excited, and I thought that I wanted to go and explore a little bit more things, and I wanted to kind of try and go and work abroad. So it's where I've kind of reflecting onto what Emma, our HR director, said. I dare ask that to my managers back in France, and I said, look, I want to have an international experience. Is it possible within Assystem? And straight away I had a big yes answer. Assystem been really supportive to me, helped me finding the right location where I could go, the right project I could work on and contribute to. And so it's how I ended up being here in the UK 7 years ago, in the northeast of England, which is quite bizarre. When I first was talking to people about the fact I was moving to the UK, everybody assumed I was going to move to London. And when I said that I was going to move to Newcastle, everybody got really confused about why I was going to leave France for going in the northeast of England. But I'm absolutely loving it. Loved the fact that Assystem was always supporting throughout this process in terms of setting into a new environment, new culture, and things like that. So now it's been 7 years, as I say. I've gradually moved from a really technical role in terms of mechanical engineering and senior mechanical engineer to now evolving into more of a mix of a project manager and still technical work, where I'm now more leading projects, still relating to fusion and the development of this. There's a lot of opportunities around fusion power in the UK. It's also a big stream, but it is really supportive of fission as well. The two of them work together. And yeah, I've been working on this, and I've been moving, and Assystem's always been supporting of where I want to go and where I want to direct my career, and always finding a role that would correspond to my skills and where I want to go. So that's some of the benefit. I think there's a real question about the position of women in the nuclear industry, and sometimes it can be a source of concern for women to join the nuclear industry, and wonder how it feels to be like in between so many guys. If one thing, I see it as a big advantage. It's never been an issue for me. During all my studies, I've always been in a environment with mostly men's, but I've always been okay with it. It's kind of generated a source of pride to me as well, to say that, look, sometime in some meetings I'm the only girl sitting around, and I'm still here, and people are still listening, and they're still like hearing what I'm saying. So I think it's that's why I think it's a big positive things, and don't be scared about that, because if one thinks, it's only like again, as I say, like it's only benefit. And you would be surprised about how people care and take care of you as being sometimes the only women around the table. And, you know, sometimes I feel that I'm a bit privileged in that aspect. And I've recently become a new mum last year, and that's again a new step in terms of my career, but also personally. And it's been great to be able to have a company that supported me through that process. So it was all a bit bizarre for me to kind of thinking that I might go away from my day-to-day role and have to give up things and then, you know, rejoin again. But Assystem's been really supportive in the way that I've been coming back in a part-time, and I've had regular review with my manager to kind of make sure that I'm still coping okay with the fact that I've just had a baby, and it's still all about new to try and balance out things. So it's also an aspect that I never thought about when I first joined the company, but it's really important now thinking about it. And, you know, it might be something that comes in within the next couple of years when you join a company, or 10 years later, but it's still something that, you know, thinking about it, I should have thought about it from the beginning. But I'm glad that Assystem's got a good supportive scheme there. Just to conclude, I think something around what I'm trying to take across is don't think that things are impossible to achieve. I think nothing is impossible. You just need to dare and take that little risk, and sometimes it can be scary, sometimes it can create a lot of worries and stress, but it's always worth it. You better ask for it rather than just regret it for your entire lifetime. I dare ask to move abroad, and I did it, and look at where I am now. I've never thought I would be still there 7 years later, but it's such a positive experience overall. So I think that's it for me. And if you have any question on my experience, just let me know.
Thank you so much, Fanny. So now we're going to hear from Rachel, and then we'll have time to put hopefully one or two of your questions to the speakers at the end as well. Thanks, Rachel.
Okay, hi everyone, hope you're all well. So yeah, my name's Rachel Atherton. I'm the Security and Business Support Manager at Assystem. So a little bit about me and just my personal journey into the nuclear industry. So my career in the industry started over 15 years ago. I started on a completely different path originally. I was actually studying a law degree at the time, and just kind of got a part-time role in a company in the nuclear and defence sector, and actually fell into a role in security, covering different aspects such as, you know, personnel, physical, information security. It was never something that I'd considered doing previously, and to be honest, I wasn't even aware that these kind of roles existed. I really enjoyed what I was doing, and very quickly kind of realised that it was something that I wanted to continue with. So after uni, I joined the security department full time, and then went on to kind of other areas within the organisation. Sorry, you'll have to excuse me, I'm pregnant, so I've not got a lot of breath at the moment. After working in the nuclear industry for kind of a number of years, I decided to try my hand at something new, and moved over to a joint venture in schools and local government, working in the programme management office. But although I enjoyed it, it just made me realise that I wanted to kind of get back into nuclear, and I knew that was where I wanted to kind of pursue my long-term career. So in around 2012, I went to night school to study HNC in business management. Once I obtained that, I just kind of began the search, and was lucky enough to get a job at Assystem, working as part of the Axiom joint venture with Sellafield Limited, originally as a project assistant. So whilst kind of progressing throughout the years in my career, I then decided to begin my postgraduate journey in counterterrorism, crime and global security, which kind of built on some of the things that I've done in the past within my role in security. So I did this part-time whilst continuing to work, and I found that really useful for me. I was able to put a lot of the learning into practice, specifically, you know, around like global threats and security management and things. So one of the reasons that I just love working for Assystem and nuclear industry in general is the kind of training and development support that you get, and that for me is one of the biggest attraction and retention aspects. I've been really lucky enough to do some extremely interesting training courses and things over the years which have helped me within my role. But it's not just the formal training that's on offer here. It's, you know, there's so many networks and groups and forums available that provide that peer-to-peer support as well. So working for Assystem for me has provided a really great development platform. I've been able to grow into areas that, you know, I'm so passionate about. There's been a level of support that I've received over the years, and more recently during lockdown. I've been juggling working full time, homeschooling my 4-year-old, as well as say, having another one on the way. So it's been really great to have that kind of flexible approach to working and have the backing of the organisation to do so, especially, you know, during such a difficult time. And they genuinely care about you and making sure that you're okay and that you're safe and well. So it's been really important for me to have that support. Just because I decided that, you know, I just wasn't busy enough. In May last year, I applied for and was selected to be the Charter Contracts Manager for Women in Nuclear UK. So that's kind of part of a global network. The Win UK vision is for the nuclear industry to achieve gender balance within its workforce, reflecting the working population within the UK that we have at the moment. We are working to achieve the targets that are set out in the nuclear sector deal, which is 40% of the UK nuclear workforce to be female by 2030, and to increase the proportion of women in senior management roles to 30% by 2030. So my role in Win UK is to manage and build on the 60 existing charter signatory organisations that have signed up to the Win UK Charter, so Assystem being one of them. And I support the organisations by sort of helping them with their pledges, supporting the industry guidance aspect of it, developing a community to be able to kind of share industry knowledge, news, support, you know, with the overall aim to support the gender balance within the nuclear industry. So I actually do that alongside my current role with Assystem, and I've been really lucky to kind of get their full support to do it, which is something that, you know, I'm so passionate about. Specifically for me, you know, being a woman in the industry, also having one and soon to be 2 daughters, you know, I want to pave the way for them and, you know, hopefully support others on their journey as well along the way. So whilst my journey, you know, hasn't necessarily been a typical one, I hope it shows that there are so many different options and roles available within the industry. And one of the key lessons that I've learned is that, you know, you've got to enjoy what you do. So I'm at work for a good amount of time, and it's so important for me that, you know, I still get excited about what I do, that I enjoy where I work and understand, you know, how I play a part in the bigger picture. So there's a little bit about me and my particular journey into the industry. And I'll stop talking now and pass you over to Sophie.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Fantastic. So I think we're going to have all of our speakers back up now, just see if we can take 1 or 2 questions. So I'm just having a little look at the questions that you guys have been putting in the chat. A few of them are directed specifically at Amna. I'm going to save those for the panel because Amna is also going to be on the panel later. But there is one that's come up that kind of relates a little bit to what you said earlier, Fanny, and it's relating to, this is Victoria. She wants to know, does the industry view a strategy to deal with nuclear waste safely? Just wondering if you've got any thoughts on that.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
So she said, just to give you the context of her question, actually, she's new to nuclear energy. It obviously has a lot of pros for low carbon alternative energy, but she wants to know, does the industry view a strategy to deal with nuclear waste safely for the humans and the planet?
Yeah, so there's some decommissioning program and waste management program going on that it is all regulated and things like that. And I know waste treatment's been, waste and nuclear power is always a big fear and, you know, scare a bit people, and you feel like, oh, we're going to have to deal with all this kind of radioactive like equipment at some point, and it's going to have a big impact. There's program in place within the nuclear industry, and you know, that's part of the decommissioning and some work that Rachel can talk about actually at Sellafield. But there's definitely program in place within the fission industry. It just need to say that although there's waste produced in nuclear fission, sorry, the limit of it is it's still fairly small compared to any other waste produced by you know, oil and gas and things like that. It's kind of there, but it's not it's not as big. And I think there's definitely program and engagement with local authority and everything in the UK, but it's also problematic worldwide about how we treat this waste. So it's either reducing them, packaging them, and making sure they're in a safe place. So I hope it answered the question. And this are potential of working in this area as well in the nuclear industry.
Brilliant, thank you so much, and thank you for your question as well, Victoria. Then one other question I just want to put to all of the panelists, actually, it's from Antonia. She asks, what are your top tips for the interview process? I don't know if you have any tips for maybe a bit of industry research the students could carry out, or any tips for how to perform well on the day.
I'll just start quickly. So depending on what job you apply for, just trying to be relevant to that job, and, you know, looking at what's going on in the description of the job spec and things like that, and definitely do a little bit of research, whether it's the company itself, or it can be a bit overwhelming and you might be able to find everything and be a bit worried that you don't know everything. It's okay to not know everything. We don't expect you to know when you join for the first time. What we keen to see is that you're capable of looking for the information at some point later on. So that's would be my biggest advice. Have a bit of an awareness, I would say, but don't feel like you have to know everything straight on when you take on a job. I don't know whether the girls agree with that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that was great advice. I was definitely going to say do some research. Ensure your CV matches to what you actually say. Make sure you know it lives up to, you know, your actual experience. And I think, you know, it's easy to say don't be nervous, but my advice would be don't be nervous. And just take them as they go. It's just all part of the experience of trying to get your first job. And, you know, once you've got that first job, you know, it all disappears out of your head, all of that, you know, all the stress of trying to find the job. But yeah, no, definitely research the company. Be aware of what you like yourself and what your interests are. It might be a bit difficult as, you know, you're just a graduate, you may not have any experience, you know, open to everything. That was me. I was open to do go into any field, but do try and do some research and try and think of where your interests may lie within our company. But I'm sure all of you will do fine.
Thank you so much. Huge thank you to all three of our speakers for sharing those fascinating insights there. And of course, you can ask your questions later on in the panel session as well, and you can use the chat at the virtual stall at any time also. I'm going to flip us off live for now, and we will be back very shortly with a conversation and a chat about the recruitment process, and we'll be able to hear from Callum and David. Be back very shortly. Thank you again. Hello everybody, welcome back. I am now joined with Callum and David, and they're going to be giving us a talk, Understanding the Recruitment Process, covering live roles and tips on how to apply for them. So I'll hand straight over to you.
Great, thanks very much, Sophie. Afternoon, everybody. I'm really delighted to hear we've got so many people on the call today, so thanks for joining. My part of the presentation here, hopefully you can see the slides. I'm going to talk a little bit about the project that I'm working on and the project that I'm running, which is the Hinkley Point C or HPC project. And I thought it'd be useful to start with some pictures just to give you some idea of how big this project is. This crane here you can see, this happened just before Christmas. And this is the biggest crane in the world called Big Carl, and gives you some idea of the scale of the project. So to be able to and have to bring in the biggest crane in the world is really something. And what they're doing there is they're bringing the rings, which are the parts that protect the reactor building. And there's 3 of these rings that they lift into place. Each of them, something like 550 tons each. So it really was something amazing. So I'm going to talk a bit about HPC. So as you know, my name is David Price. I'm the Business Unit Director for Assystem, and my job is to look after the project and for all the people that are working on the project. And I'm responsible for delivering on behalf of Assystem to all of our customers. So as you can see from the bottom of this slide here, we've got about 85 people working on this project at the moment. We started with no people about 2 years ago, so it's been a very fast increase. And these days we are now running 3 main streams of work, really very, very different, all of them. The first one is working on quality, and this is basically looking after the supply chain. So making sure that all the products and the bits and pieces that go together to make up this incredibly complex piece of kit, when they arrive to site, they're all fit for purpose, and we can use them straight away. The second one is the JDO, which is the Joint Design Office, and this is where we're basically supplying a lot of engineers. So I think we've got quite a few engineers on the call today. So this is the main engineering that we're doing on Hinkley C. And although a lot of the design of the plant is done before we get to site, in common with most construction projects, what you find is that when you get to site, you'll find that there's always issues, and a lot of those issues then have to be engineered on site, and we have to make decisions about how we manage those particular problems that come up. So we've got a really rapidly growing team of engineers that are working on the project. The third side is the commissioning. Now commissioning is a little bit way away now, probably starting around 2 years' time. So fundamentally, when you're putting up a plant like this, we have to design it, we have to engineer it, we have to build it, and then we have to commission it, which is really just to put it into service. And so the commissioning is a very, very important part, and is often one of the most difficult parts of getting a plant like this to work. And clearly at the end of the day, what we're trying to do here is get this plant onto what we call onto the bars, which is to connect it to the national grid so we can supply lots of carbon-free energy. And you can see some of the items there that we do in each one. I won't read through all of them. Quite happy to share some of these slides afterwards with Sophie, so she can share them onwards if people want to have a better idea of what we're doing on the project, but clearly a little bit pushed for time. So what are we doing here on this program? So it's the first program of its type that we've done, and this is the start of hopefully around a 5-year program of work, and hopefully some of you will be part of the first intake this year. And as I think Emma said earlier on, and then obviously you then heard from Rachel as well, this is around increasing our diversity. And one of those reasons that we're looking at graduates is we want to both increase the diversity, but also decrease the average age of people like myself. You can see I'm not the youngest person in the world working within the nuclear industry. So we're trying really hard to get diversity, both in terms of male, female, ethnicity, but also age as well. And I would say that it's probably one of the most diverse programs I've worked on. At last count, we had something like 15 nationalities working just in my part of the project. So as I said, we're trying to get around 100 STEM women into the project. And we've got 3 main locations where the project is located. And that is in Gloucester, it's in Bristol, in the north of Bristol, and then also on site itself at Hinkley Point, which you can see marked by the red pin here down in Somerset. Okay, so the most important thing here is that virtually every position will be different. So when people ask, you know, what can I do, what can I apply for? I think part of the reason that this will be such a good success is that we've got a really amazing buy-in from the customer. So EDF are really, really keen, and also another organization called Advance, which is part owned by EDF. And here we're trying to ensure that we design the right actual position for each person that we get. And that will be discussed with the customer, and then we'll make sure we put you in the right position. And then the last point on that slide is that we hope that For each of these particular graduate positions, it would be about 18 months, which is something like 6 months shorter than we'd normally had for the grad program. But because people will be embedded, we do believe that we can make that faster, and hopefully within 18 months then you'll be a fully fledged engineer or whatever you decide to do. And as we discussed earlier with Amna and with Fanny, we have a really strong system of mentorship, and that's both at Fanny's level but also at the executive level as well. So for instance, I'm the executive mentor, in fact, of one of the people that's going to be talking to you today. So what could you do? So as I said earlier, we've got engineering, we've got quality, and we've got commissioning. Now, these aren't the only areas. We have had some young people on the project before who, for instance, have worked more in project management roles. So I think there's really quite a wide variety of roles that are there to do. It's one of the biggest projects, I think the biggest project in Europe at the moment, and obviously one of the biggest projects in the world that's ongoing. So really this, there's that phrase about the world's your oyster. I think that's probably true on this particular project. So how do you get involved? Okay, so the applications, as you know, will open in February. And ideally a graduate of either last year or somebody who's going to graduate in this year. Now, as part of the recruitment process, which I think Callum's going to talk a little about in a minute, we will endeavour to match your degree and your background against the most applicable role. But on the other hand, don't be afraid to go after something which may be slightly outside of your comfort zone. I think that's really important to really give this a really good go and have a look and see what the opportunities are. And then really, I think as you've already heard from the other speakers, how you progress and where you get to is really up to you. Assystem is really incredibly supportive of its young folk and our people in general. We do a lot of training, a lot of development. We believe, for instance, very strongly in charterships, and therefore we really will enable you to really get to the top of your potential. So, as I said earlier, that might mean remaining in your role that you do for the first 18 months, or it could be that you see something else you want to do. And as one thing we always talk about within our system is the mobility. And that's both mobility within the UK, and as you've seen with Fanny, also the international mobility as well. We've got a really growing portfolio of clients, both in the UK and also internationally, some of the biggest companies in the world. And of course, that gives us an amazing amount of opportunity. So that's really it from me. So I'll now hand over to Callum.
Thank you, David. Hi, guys. So my name is Callum. I am the lead recruiter for Assystem's nuclear new build teams in the UK. So I've been here about 2 years. So started on HPC when it was around 0, and as David mentioned, we're up to around 85. So my role is twofold, really. It's one, to support the organisation, Assystem, in finding the right people for the right roles, but it's also to ensure that you as the candidates and as our potential employees are well looked after in terms of your onboarding, in terms of the idea that you're coming into the right role and a role that'll be of interest to you. So, David, if you could just click to the first slide, please. Thank you very much. So, to start off, the fundamentals of what I discuss and the fundamentals of what we discuss with every new recruit into Assystem, no matter how senior or how junior you are, is the very basics. So, as David mentioned, Hinkley Point C is predominantly in the southwest. So 3 main areas: North Bristol, Bridgewater, Hinkley Point C, which, as you've seen, is very much on the coast for fairly obvious reasons. But there's also other opportunities in Gloucester, as I'm sure many people might be aware at the moment. A lot of the work we're doing at the moment is home working, but hopefully post-COVID, the predominant of the work will be in the southwest. So it's a very big consideration. Obviously, if you do intend to progress with us, we would need you to be able to be based in those locations. Other things to consider from your perspective would be obviously the salary. It is a competitive salary. We've done a lot of market research into this. We feel we're very much on a line of for the opportunity versus the remuneration. We're very much in line with where we need to be. Development, as mentioned by David, this is quite a unique opportunity. I'm sure most graduate programs you'll see will be a minimum 2 years plus. Assystem, in collaboration with EDF, is looking to progress the successful individuals very quickly through the program and have you as full-fledged engineers in a shorter time span through our collaborative work with EDF. We also have an extensive benefits package, and can't cover all the topics on this one particular call, but there is a huge range of benefits from support, from extracurricular, from simple things like holidays, all that sort of stuff we can cover off in the calls later on. So the graduate intake is open as of February. The initial positions we are looking for are in April, but as mentioned, they will be rolling for the rest of the year into 2021, 2022, and thereafter, hopefully to achieve our targets of 100 STEM women engineers by 2025, 2026. And yes, so one of the keys and one of my favorite things to talk about is the project itself. Obviously, as I'm sure you've been made aware of so far in these conversations, Hinkley Point C is the largest construction project in Europe. So just the notoriety of that, what the project aims to achieve. I'm sure we're all very much aware of the climate change challenges, and hopefully Hinkley Point C is the first in a series of nuclear programs that will aid in combating that challenge. Next slide, please, David. So what are we doing? So sure, some of you will be booked in with conversations with myself or with one of my recruitment colleagues later on today. This is the initial assessment, albeit fairly short at 15 minutes. What this will allow us to do is get a better idea of yourself, what it is you're looking for, because fundamentally it is your career. And whilst we want the future leaders in nuclear new build, you have to be happy in what you're doing. So things we'll be looking for, things we'll want to discuss with you later on today, whether that be today or later on in the week, depending on whether you're booked in with us or not. So as Dave mentioned, whilst your qualification might be mechanical, there is opportunities to diversify your skill set. We have a range of opportunities. They are not atypical in terms of electrical, mechanical. They come with a very much a broad range of requirements, very much an individual by individual basis in terms of what development there are, what exposure you'll get, what training you'll get. So each role we have would be unique in its own way. But fundamentally, for us to assign that role, we need to understand you. So your education, obviously, the majority of you will come from a STEM-based background, so that's relatively straightforward. Relevant experience, of course, any prior work experience you've done within the engineering field is always advantageous, whether that be temporary, placements, internships, even your university coursework would definitely lend itself in your application. What a lot of people don't realise is that as a graduate, we're not expecting to come in with 4 or 5 years of relevant hands-on experience in engineering. What we want to see is what else you've done that lets us understand more about who you are. So many of the people we speak to, we don't discuss their engineering background, we discuss any temporary roles you've done, any volunteer work, any sporting achievements, any extracurricular activities they do or participate in. I know we have a very diverse range of extracurricular activities. I know some of us are cyclists, some of us go to the gym, some of us play football, some of us play tennis. It's a very diverse portfolio, but fundamentally, teamwork is always involved, problem solving, communications. No matter what you do in your activities outside of work, will always lend itself to supporting your working environment. And again, we want to see examples where you've utilised problem solving, communication, leadership, because these are the fundamentals of what we're looking for in future leaders. And again, additional information, as David mentioned, the project itself is very diverse in its nature, which is fantastic. So not only do we want to have people speak English, but obviously particularly French or Italian or a variety of languages are always highly advantageous. Computer skills, again, a lot of people write that they can use MS Office or Microsoft Office. I am no expert in PowerPoint or in Excel, but I am training myself to do so because it is a very useful skill set, particularly working from home. Some of the skills that we've needed to adapt, such as Zoom and Teams and those sort of other areas, have lent themselves very well to supporting with our ability to continue in difficult circumstances. So as mentioned, the next part, obviously, after this, later on today, will hopefully be interviews with myself and the other recruitment team. We understand you're going to be nervous. We want you to be as relaxed as possible. We are not the decision makers. We want to know you. We want to get to know more about you. We want to know what your dreams or ambitions are. We want to give you a bit more scope of what Assystem is looking for, and really understand, how we can hopefully align what Assystem needs with what you need, and hopefully bring together a wonderful relationship moving forward. So I look forward to meeting several of you later on today. Next slide, please, David. So yeah, just to cover off, again, hopefully give you a bit more of a scope of what to expect if you are interviewing later on today. It's relatively informal. It is an interview, but it's for us to find out more about who you are. So obviously, we want to know, hi, who are you? What you've been doing? You want to know who we are. You've heard a lot about us so far. You can get a bit more detail about that from the recruiters. And again, as we mentioned, it's not just about what you've done previously or what you're currently doing. It's about what you want to achieve longer term. Why do you want to be a part of nuclear? Why do you want to work in your particular STEM subject? Is there something more you want to be doing with your career longer term? We want to know all that about you. It's a very short space of time, 15 minutes. So we will try our best to let you talk as freely as possible. And again, so the basis of that would then be that we will then work with our recruitment team and our engineering colleagues that you've heard from to ascertain what will be the best suited fit for your skill set within Assystem. So just some things to review. Obviously, I appreciate many of you will be considering various options within your careers at the moment. If you have questions, we would like to hear them. If you want to know anything about nuclear or anything about the recruitment process, anything about Assystem, provided they're not hugely technical, the recruitment team can answer the majority of them. We are not engineers by trade. We come from a very variety of backgrounds, let's say, which you'll hear more about in a minute. But we want to make sure that if you're going to pursue a career with Assystem, you're comfortable with what you're coming into, whilst it being a new challenge. And yeah, just as mentioned, the majority of our leadership team will have been through similar sort of things, graduate programs, placements, everything you guys have been through, they've been through. I'm sure everyone is nervous, but at the same time, try your very best to bring you out, and we will try our very best to coax it out of you, even if you are just a tiny bit nervous. So yeah, then finally, David, just move on to the final slide. So you've heard a lot about the development of Assystem. I'm one of the biggest advocates of it. 6 years ago, I was working in Chessington World of Adventures, managing a staff diner, and I am now the lead recruiter for the second largest nuclear engineering company on the largest construction project in Europe. Albeit there's been some trials and tribulations, but 2 years ago, I took on an opportunity with Assystem. It is life-changing opportunity, not only for me, but for my family. As I'm sure you've been made aware, nuclear engineering in the UK is only going to grow. Assystem is very much at the forefront of that growth. We want the very best. We can also offer the very best careers, not only for Hinkley Point C in the wider scope of the projects across both the UK and internationally. I myself, I've recently achieved my first promotion within Assystem, having been here for 2 years. I've worked very closely with the likes of David and many of the other people you've heard from today to support the overall growth in Assystem, and they in turn have reciprocated that to me. Like many people, I have a young family, so working from home has had its challenges, but the company's been very, very understanding sometimes of those challenges. It's a fantastic place to develop your career. It really is. We're looking to do something different here. It's not just coming, do your 9 to 5, go home. We want people who want to be supporting the change in the UK. Climate change is obviously a big topic, and everything we do in the nuclear industry, particularly on the nuclear new build side, is for a better future for not only for myself, but for my son and the next generations thereafter. And again, the big part of Assystem is to dare. If someone had told me 2 years ago I'd have been speaking on this call to 50 people, I would have said no chance. I don't do public speaking. I'm quite glad it's video in some ways. I can't see all your faces, so I'm just going to smile at the screen and pretend like I'm not nervous. But no, it really does. It opens up a lot of doors. They give you so many opportunities. And again, you know, we can discuss more of them later on in the further discussion today. But hopefully, some of that information will be useful to you, and even if it's not just with Assystem, in the wider in your wider job search. You know, if you can be yourself, and if you can contain the nerves, I'm sure you'll all do great. So that's it from me. Unless there's anything else, David. No.
Okay, back to Sophie, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for that. There are so many opportunities. I started making notes at the start, and then I was just like, wow, I can't keep up with these.
Yeah.
So we've had some questions come through, but guys, we've got like 10-15 minutes now for Q&A, so keep putting those in the chat so I can see them and I can put those over to Callum and David, so you can get a few questions out the way now before your one-to-ones later. And also, if you don't have a one-to-one booked, you can still use the chat, don't forget, so you can pop up and chat to the recruiters as well at any time. The first question I just wanted to put to you kind of relates to what you were saying then, Callum. For these students who might be nervous about interviews anyway, might be nervous about maybe public speaking or anything like that. I know what you mean about not being able to see the faces. It is a different dynamic, isn't it? Sometimes I feel like I'm talking to myself. But do you have any tips on how to present well or to combat nerves if you're being interviewed via video or virtually?
Yeah, I mean, as I was saying to David, I made sure my background was as tidy as possible. I have a young child at home, a dog, and a new family, so it's a bit chaotic in the background. So make sure you're prepared. You know, research is fundamental. Not just going on the company's website, but if you have an extreme interest in any company, not even Assystem, but I feel you make sure you do the research to showcase that. I can guarantee you, you know, 30-40% of the conversation later on will be, you know, Assystem. If you know most of that already, it gives you more opportunity to butt in and say, I already know that. I'm well, but it makes a good impression on us. You know, we want people who are interested in not only Assystem but nuclear engineering in general. It is a very interesting field. Even for me, who's not an engineer, I do try my hand to understand the basics of what the guys talk about from time to time.
Yeah, definitely. I've been trying my hardest today.
And I would, Sophie, I would echo what Callum said. I think a lot of it's around preparation, and as Callum said, we clearly know you don't have a huge engineering pedigree at this point. What we're interested in a lot of the times, Callum said, is what else you've done in your life. So what sports you've done, whether you play music, whether you've volunteered, So I think it's around the background and the type of person that you are. I think there was a question that was raised, I think, before this event, Sophie, which was around collaboration. And I think somebody thought that it was sort of working on your own forever, being put in a room and locked there and you can't come out until you're finished. That clearly isn't the case. It's most of what we do is a very collaborative process in terms of design, project management, and all the other sort of functions that we do. I think that Callum would tell you that we spend most of our day on video calls on Teams is what we use.
Yep.
And the reason for that is to make it collaborative. Clearly, at the moment, we're using Teams a lot more because we can't do face-to-face with people. But most of the time, even when we're in the office, we're in meetings with people or we're speaking to people, and it's very much a collaborative exercise designing something, that's for sure. And I think the whole engineering process that we do, mainly as a company, end to end, if you're not collaborating and you can't collaborate, then that sort of teamwork breaks down, and therefore we don't get the result we need.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Kind of links to what you just were talking about there, David, but we've had a question come through from Nuha. She's studying mechanical engineering, and she's asking specifically what kind of things could she be doing in university to increase her interest in the field and also make her a more attractive candidate for this kind of graduate role.
Okay, I think from my perspective, it is around your interests outside of your academic studies. I think it is ensuring that you're doing the background reading. I think by now you're in your final year, or you've done your final year of your degree, and you probably understand that a lot of what you have to do, even when you're doing a degree and doing one of your theses, and there's probably many that you've done, A lot of it is around the background reading and understanding the subject. And I'll probably come back to what Callum said, which is nuclear power for us is just one way to combat climate change. We're also doing quite a lot in the space of hydrogen production, for instance. We're doing quite a lot in the in carbon capture and all these types of technologies that enable us to cut our carbon emissions. Both in France and the UK, we are committed to getting down to net carbon zero by, I think, 2050 in France, last time I looked. And obviously here we've now tried to make it earlier. Now, whether that's achievable or not, of course, is something else, but I think we're on the right path. So whether it's wind power, whether it's solar, whether it's carbon capture, hydrogen, nuclear power, these are all technologies that Assystem as an organization is very, very interested in. So I think coming back to your question, do background reading and ensure that you understand what Assystem's main drivers are, and then you can demonstrate that you're interested in that and you've actually taken the time to go and research it. That's really one of the best things, I should say. I don't know whether Callum wants to offer anything else.
No, that's exactly what I would say. It's the same across anything. You can never be prepared for the questions. I made a comment the other day to my boss that it's the second most subjective topic I've ever seen, along with art, because you'll have people come out the interview and go, "Oh, I've just blown that completely," and then 20 minutes later you get a phone call, "Oh, they want to offer you the job." Yeah. So interviews are never going to go perfectly, but all you can do is be prepared. The fundamentals of smile, engage. I'd say sit up, but obviously it's a bit more difficult to show that in a video setting. But do the basics. People aren't expecting you to do tons and tons of research, but if you can actually demonstrate that you have a vested interest in the organisation, and it's not just one of the 15, 20 roles you apply to, but you want to be part of that team or that organisation, then we'll be reflected in how we come across as well, because we'll be able to see that straight away.
Definitely. Just to add, if I may, I think coming to events like this, it shows a lot of interest in the industry as well. And you guys are going to learn so much from these events. There are so many free events out there at the moment as well, to attend and to practice your networking. Just go for it. Just, you're on a video chat. This is a unique opportunity to chat directly with the recruitment team at this fantastic company. So yes, definitely be confident and go for it. Okay, so the next question is relating to the graduate roles themselves. They're asking, are they quite rigid once you're in them? Is it kind of, it's what you make of it? You can pick and choose different projects. Is it rotational? A little bit more information on that, really.
Okay, so I guess the grad program we're running this time is slightly different to the way we would normally do it. So normally within our company, people would probably rotate every 6 to 12 months. But I think the way we're trying to do it within HPC, particularly this time, is we've been given this golden opportunity by HPC to provide quite a lot of graduates into their organization. Now, what that really means is they're looking for people that are willing to commit for 18 months, which isn't a very long period of time. But I think what that will really give you an insight into what the project is doing, and really whether you like the type of role that you signed up for originally. Now, of course, hopefully when we all get back to a normal way of working in the next few months, you'll then be mixing with a lot of other people who are doing completely different roles. So you may be a mechanical engineer, you'll be sat next to somebody who's doing control instrumentation, or civil engineering, or project management. And I think, as I said earlier, there's such a wide range, it's difficult for us to actually list them all. But I think also what that gives you the ability to look at those other people and say, I quite like what that person's doing. Now, sometimes it's not possible to hop over the fence from, say, mechanical into civil engineering. I appreciate that. But then we're not just looking for engineers. And I think we have to make that really clear. We do want engineers, but there's also a lot of other roles that support our business, for instance, project management. And I think that we need to be clear that just because you're doing one role for 18 months, you're not going to be stuck in that role forever. It is the start of your career.
Yeah, I think just to echo that from a personal story, so I've been in recruitment for 2 years. I came in to do a rather generic role, and now my progression, albeit I'm not a STEM student, but my progression is now to be much more engaged in one singular project to support the success of that. Now, that's just for me as someone who's as a layperson in engineering terms or in STEM terms in 2 years' time. So the growth's there for those who want it, and who can, bring some initiative to the party, show some value. That's what everyone wants to be able to see. And again, from a company's perspective as well, I think the projects that we're anticipating coming up in the next 5 years will require people to diversify their skill sets as well. So the opportunity, so it might not be that they have to go out and seek those, they might be presented to them as time goes by.
Yeah, definitely. Super exciting. Really does sound incredible. We've had a specific question just pop up. Do you offer industrial placements?
Is this somebody that's doing a sandwich degree, I guess?
Yes, mechanical engineering.
So I think the answer is it depends. It depends whether we have the ability to do that at the time. I think a lot of our business is very dynamic. So from year to year, we have a very, very different range of projects. And therefore, it just depends whether we have the ability to embed somebody or not. What I would say is, though, that we have had people, particularly coming from France, also we're a French organization originally. We have had quite a few people who have come from France and have worked in HPC during the summer. So the answer is yes, we can do it. Clearly, the more notice that we have, the better. We can't always promise because it does depend on the ability for us to find the right place. But we've had something like, I think, a dozen young people come and work for between 3 to 6 months on the project.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And then one final question is from Kaylee. She wanted to ask about the mission handicap that she read about on your website. Specifically, is it just for physical disabilities or also invisible ones as well? What kind of support do you offer there?
Okay, so I think it's really important to understand that not every disability is visible, as she pointed out. Was it Keely?
Keely, yeah.
Keely, yeah. So I think, yeah, it's really important. We take a lot of pride in the way that we deal with mental health these days. I think in common with most of the companies across the nuclear sector in particular, which is many where we work, there's a lot of store put by having what we call mental first aiders, for instance. And we are very, very active in terms of ensuring that we try to assist everybody that has a disability of one form or another. And also, of course, a lot of people get these disabilities throughout their working life. So we really work very, very hard to support everybody at every stage of their working life.
Yeah, just to echo that, I know my boss Joe has recently been on mental health training courses as well, and the likes of it. I know we do have some registered mental health first aiders as well. So it's very much a topic that's close to many of us. Yeah, so it's very well regarded in Assystem, and yeah, there is further development going in that area as well, which is also.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much for the presentation and for answering those questions as well. Just to remind everybody, if you go to the company page, scroll down and you can start a web chat. So you don't have to have one of those 15-minute slots booked again, because I know there's other questions in the chat. Some are quite specific to do with your degree, your background and things like that. So those are perfect to put in the chat at the stall. You just scroll down to the section called Talk to Us About, and then you can pick any of those topics and start a chat anytime until 5 p.m. today. But huge thank you to both of you. Again, I'm going to flip us off the live and then I'll be back very shortly for our panel session. Hello everybody, welcome back. We are now joined by our panelists for our panel session. We have a real mix of panelists today. I'm really excited to get all of the different perspectives. We have Vicky, who is a QHSE manager, Chris and Amna, who are graduate engineers, Nick, who is a senior business development manager, and Joe, who's a recruitment manager as well. So we're going to get lots of different opinions and slants on this. I'm just going to hand over to each of our panelists to tell us a little bit more about their role. So we'll start with Chris. That's all right?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here today. So my name's Chris Unsworth, and I'm a graduate engineer within Assystem. So at the minute, I'm currently working on the UK Small Modular Reactor Consortium that you've hopefully seen about in the news in the past couple of months. It's a project that I'm really enjoying. And more specifically within that, I'm working within the Cooling Water Island team and sort of directly contributing to developing the systems that will ultimately be used to remove the waste heat from the power station when it's in operation.
Wow, fantastic. We had a question earlier about the waste, so that might be perfect to chat about a bit more later. And then over to you, Nick, please, for your introduction.
Hi everyone, so I'm the business manager for the work we do for NMB. So it's the EDF client that's responsible for the Hinkley Point C project and the Sizewell C project. What can I tell you about me? I am a graduate of the University of Sheffield. I live in Paris. I did engineering with French, so if anyone's got any questions about languages and culture and how that fits in, don't hesitate. I now have double nationality, a French wife and a bilingual, well, a soon-to-be bilingual baby. And I've been with Assystem now coming up to 5 years, and I've spent 5 years previously working as a mechanical systems engineer for EDF in Paris. I'm also a chartered engineer of the IMechE, so I can also answer some questions about that. Thank you, Sophie.
Fantastic, thank you. And then over to you, Joe, as well, please.
Hello, I'm Joe Gayor. I'm the recruitment manager for the UK for Assystem. I've been with the company 3.5 years. I graduated from Newcastle, if we're talking about that, Newcastle upon Tyne, in politics. I am responsible for bringing in all of the headcount requirements for our massive growth that we are anticipating over the next few years and have already been through over the last few years. So the culture and the size and the shape of Assystem has grown significantly and is going to continue to grow. And my remit is to make sure we get the right type of talent and the kind of talent that we can develop and will help us to develop in the way that we need to over the coming years.
Fantastic, thank you. And then over to you as well, please, Vicky.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Vicky Walsh. I'm the QHSE manager for the UK for Assystem. I actually, going back to many years ago, graduated as a civil engineer, so I am an engineer by profession and diversified as I grew into the roles that I had. Predominantly diverted first of all into sort of environmental management and then into quality and latterly health and safety. So within Assystem, I actually provide the technical support and advice for the operational aspects of quality, environmental health and safety across the organisation. I facilitate the implementation and writing and deployment of all the policies and procedures, so the framework of our management systems that we utilise from throughout the whole life cycle of everything we do. So it's a bit of a varied role with a bit of a touch on every aspect of the business.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And then Amna, I know we had insights from you earlier in a little Q&A, but for anyone who missed that, would you mind doing an intro again for us?
Yeah, sure. My name's Amna and I've been with Assystem for the past 2 years. I came on as a graduate mechanical engineer and I'm based in Derby. And I'm currently working with the client to create a tolerance stack-up analysis of stuff I can't really talk about, but it's interesting stuff. You get to see how the design and the drawings and the tolerances are all used and incorporated together to do this analysis. It's quite involved. So yeah, I've also previously worked on within various teams on site, and I'm slowly gaining experience with every new project.
Fantastic, thank you all for those introductions. So myself and the audience have had a fantastic couple of hours hearing about different aspects of the company. We've heard about the people, the projects, the recruitment processes. And one question that I think applies to all of you really that I'd like to ask you is, out of all of the different aspects of the company, the innovation, the culture, everything I've just touched on there, what is the one thing that attracted you most to work for Assystem? I wonder if we could start with Chris, just because you're on my top left.
Yeah, that's no problem. Yes, I think it's been mentioned a lot from you've had Emma from earlier on in the day about the culture, and that was one of the big things that I got from when I had my interview. That was sort of a big factor in me deciding to come work for Assystem.
Mm.
So I won't really go too much into that because you've probably bored to death of hearing about it. But I think the second from me was in terms of the amount of training, support and mentoring I'm going to get as part of my scheme, all basically working towards developing me as a professional and ultimately contributing me to become a better engineer in the future. And I saw that as a big differentiator for me in terms of what Assystem was offering me was going to be heads and shoulders above the rest, and the opportunities I would get access to, such as mentoring with people who were quite high up in the business, was something that was just an opportunity that I couldn't really turn down.
Fantastic. Does anyone else have a particular thing that kind of struck them or stood out to them?
Well, mine is pretty simple. It was really local. And, it was around the corner. But also, I've worked in recruitment for quite some time, so it probably won't mirror the kind of requirements of a lot of people perhaps watching or listening in. But the work-life balance is fantastic. Although a lot of us get passionate about what we do, when you get here, you realise what the kind of company it is, and you get passionate about what you do, and you get passionate about the level of collaboration and the level of access to different and interesting, challenging work. That if you want to do it, people will be there to support you to do it, and that makes it much more interesting. But initially, it was literally I could almost see the building from
Oh, that helps. Fantastic.
And it's as valid a reason as any. If it's local for you and it works for you, it's valid.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I just like to add it's the diversity of what we can do and the diversity of roles within the organisation and the opportunity and potential growth for individuals to span out into different aspects. And then fundamentally for me, having diversified 20 years ago into environmental management, it's been that part of that journey. And for us to actually achieve the net zero carbon by 2050, we need to have nuclear energy as part of that package. So it's being part of that journey to actually assist the wider scope for society, really, in terms of energy.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's opportunity. So I'm getting old, as Joe can attest to. I'm now, I've just turned 32 not too long ago. And in my 5 years with Assystem, I've done project management and been responsible for the innovation work that actually led to Chris's employment in part, because it led to the SMR work we're now doing with Rolls-Royce in part. And then having people take a chance on me to kick off the business on HPC, where we were 0 people before. We're now 85 this month and going strong. So it's a bit of a responsibility to be able to be responsible for strategic elements, commercial elements, client relationships at a tender age. But all the same, there is that chance. And if you want to take that chance, the company will look at that and try to accompany you, because you can't do everything straight off. You do need that accompaniment, and that's where I think what's come out very strongly today is that mentoring. It is having that support network around you, and people not being afraid to push you and be passionate about what we do.
Definitely. There's a culture definitely in the company. There's a huge amount of talent, certainly in the more senior people within the company, and they openly share that talent. They're there to help and support and guide and aid other people within the business to get better at what they do, and they offer that freely, and it's really refreshing. Having worked, when you get to my age, Nick, you've seen lots of working practices in different organisations. It's enormously refreshing to see people that are that open about helping others, and it's almost ego-free.
Yeah, I can attest to what Joe's just said, because I've only been with the company 4 months now, and the amount of support I've had from some sort of senior figures has been really great, and just they're so willing to share their time with you, just to chat to help you develop.
It's so refreshing. Simon and Emma this morning in their talks at the end, they said, feel free to add me on LinkedIn. And we run so many of these events, and you really don't hear that very often. So, I mean, when you talk about being approachable and supportive as a company, I think, very indicative of that, definitely. Okay, so fantastic. Just when you were chatting before, Nick, a question's come up that I think would kind of relate to what you were talking about. No, it's not bad. And I can't believe you said 32 is old. I will be speaking to you later. So this is someone who, it's Lucy Robinson. She's doing applied mathematics and she's wondering what type of international opportunities would be available to her, you know, going from the UK, but also tips on how to move abroad and work and kind of integrate, because she's really interested in moving abroad to work.
Okay. So obviously the aim of today's forum is first and foremost to be able to be looking for work within the UK, and then from there be able to then promote international mobility thereafter. So what we can be thinking there is your language skills. So do you have other languages or not? And if not, where will being able to master the English language and your experience be most useful? So today we've got work in Finland, Turkey, Egypt, Uzbekistan, other projects within Rosatom, which is the Russian nuclear group. And so to that effect, it's working out where you can have the greatest impact. Obviously, not speaking those languages isn't necessarily a problem. If you're up for the challenge, you can ask for language courses or just throw yourself in and just get on with it when you're there. Normally, I'm employed in the French side of the company, but within the UK company, I'm assuming it's very much a similar case. Every year within your appraisals, you can explain that you have an interest for international mobility, and you'll be put into a shortlist of personnel, and then should the appropriate opportunity come up, be contacted, or if you see an opportunity, as I mentioned before, raise your hand, talk to your manager, speak to the individuals in question and see if you can facilitate that. I myself did French at university as part of my degree, which made coming to France all that much easier, although it doesn't quite prepare you for the rigors of French bureaucracy and paperwork, but certainly it's been open to that challenge.
Thank you so much for explaining that. Okay, so one question I just want to drop in as well. I know we've got some other questions to go back to, but it's a question that's come up a few times today, and it's to do with skills that these students have picked up in their degree. Okay, maybe they're not necessarily doing engineering, maybe they're doing something else, physics, maths, etc. What kind of skills did any of you, I mean, I'm looking particularly at Amna and Chris maybe as well, what skills did you pick up in your degree that you're finding incredibly useful now in your role, that apply to your role, that are helping you out?
I think obviously with my role as an engineer, obviously having that sort of broad-based engineering knowledge is sort of fundamental to my role. But I've really found that like it's been the skills around that that have sort of really come in more useful with the role I'm currently doing. So it's like your ability to sort of your problem solve, or your analytical skills, or your ability to come up with innovative ideas. And then another really big one is obviously the collaborative working. Like that's one of the big things in Assystem. It's everything's collaborative because you get the most, you get the best results when you work as a team. So if you've got experience of that through group projects at university or any extracurricular activities, so those are really useful skills to have, and make sure you talk about them in your application.
Brilliant. It's interesting that you mentioned collaboration there as well. It's something that's come up so much today. And before this event, I spoke to some of the attendees and I asked them if they had any kind of perceptions about the industry that they wanted me to put to you guys to see if they're realistic or true. And one of them was that it would be quite an isolated way to work, so that you'd be kind of put on a project and left on it on your own. But everything that's getting spoken about today, it seems to be, it's much more collaborative and a lot of team-based work as well. So that's really refreshing. One other thing I wanted to ask that was a bit of a perception that came up twice actually, was that working in this industry, everything is quite strict. So there's not a lot of room for movement. There's, you know, very stringent rules. It's quite a rigid role. And there was also a couple of questions around safety as well. So is it a safe job? Is it a safe industry to work in? So if anyone's got any questions or anything to throw in there, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's a perfectly safe industry to work in. It's completely regulated, which is why there's lots of rules around what we actually do. But there's opportunity there to explore and be innovative, exactly what Chris was saying. So it's, yeah, regulations are there to be followed, rules are there to be followed, but there's nothing going to expose you to any sort of danger. within the work, which isn't in a controlled manner.
Brilliant, thank you.
I think there's a lot of myth busting that can still be done around nuclear. I mean, we were hearing before about the question that was put to Fanny about waste. I mean, we talk about nuclear waste, but no one really focuses on CO2. So, for example, 1 kilogram of uranium, which is the source material for a reactor, is equivalent to 14,000 kilograms of coal, the same energy output. Now, I don't even know how many tons of CO2 that is. We don't think about every time we turn a car on what's coming out the back end. When we put on our kettles, how much heat that uses and so on. And yet we immediately hear nuclear and everyone gets a bit scared and worried about actually what we're going to do with the waste. But ultimately there are 3 levels of waste, and it's only the high level waste that we need to really be particularly focused on. And there's very little of it when you compare to everything else. So I think there's a bit of myth busting to look into there. Ultimately, a reactor is a kettle, like anything else. Essentially, it gets really hot in the middle. It turns water to steam, and then you have a heat exchanger, which is the same principle for lots of other technologies. It's just depending what your initial source is. In terms of it being strict, I wouldn't call it strict, rather you have to have a greater level of attention to detail. Within HPC, they talk about right first time, i.e. there's no room for error because of the implications that can come with it, and because of the attention and stereotype that nuclear can get. And that's very much the mentality of those that work within the industry. You don't have to be a whole other level above everybody else, you just have to be very detail orientated and make sure that what you do is done to the best of your ability every time. And I think that's true whether you're working on the project or, you know, with any of the people we have here today of their different levels. It should be that same approach, irrespective if you're a graduate or you're the MD.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think just jumping in on that doesn't necessarily mean you can't have sort of fun within your teams and on the work you're doing. I know on my particular project, we've even run a couple of like virtual pub quizzes as sort of team building, which is always really fun to get involved with. So it's work hard, but also play hard.
Can I just add also, just purely from a very fundamental level, because I know we all understand what we do on a day-to-day basis. We work here, and others that, you know, that are looking to us and perhaps don't have that understanding. So we don't get close to reactors. We are a design consultancy, so we work in air-conditioned, lovely offices, and we design and we engineer. We take a client's brief and we make it flesh. We create from it. So we're kind of innovators in that space. But our working environment, the fundamental working environment, is an office with air conditioning and fantastic coffee and great facilities. So you're not exposed to any danger whilst working for us. We don't work within reactors or around that kind of environment. It's we're a design consultancy, so it's separated a few elements back from that kind of working environment.
Oh, that was really helpful. Thank you so much for all of that information. I'm learning a lot today. I really am learning a lot, so thank you. We've had one question pop up that I want to put to everybody, if that's okay. It actually is a little bit more geared maybe to Chris and Amna. It's from Marlena. She says, for any of the panelists who started as a graduate in a graduate role, did Assystem expect you to know what you were doing as soon as you started working, or was there assistance from experienced peers?
When I started, I had a few industry experiences, but essentially you're put into a team, emphasis on team, where there are people who are surrounded by people who are going to help you and guide you. There is obviously deadlines and tasks that you need to complete, but there's always no one is going to expect you to do something that you've never done before correct the first time. Your work will always be looked over, it will be checked. In my case, in terms of, so for example, something I did at the start was stress analysis, calculation on a design to ensure that it was safe. Within our system, we have our own process of making sure our work, not just a graduate, but anybody's work, is checked to ensure that there's no mistakes. sometimes you become blind to your own errors after you've looked at something over and over again. We have an internal process which ensures that anything that will, especially in regarding safety, is checked internally by somebody more senior. Something that will be put in front of the customers checked. So there's always guidance, and there's always, everyone works as a team to ensure that, you know, whatever work you're doing or somebody else is doing, there's always that collaborative side to it where, you know, you can ask for help, you can ask for ideas. You know, essentially that's what engineering is, you know, there's a big group of people with different experiences who come together, and you as a graduate, you may feel like you don't have something to bring, but surprisingly you will. You've come from university where you've probably used different software. Sometimes you'll know how to do something on a Microsoft Word that somebody senior than you will not know how to do, because you've had to do a dissertation, you've had to format it appropriately, you've had to add hyperlinks, contents tables. There's all these little things that you may think everyone around you may know, but that's the beauty of a team, is that everyone has something to bring to it.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. And hopefully that answers your question. Thank you very much for all of your questions in the chat as well, everybody. So I'm very conscious that we only have a couple of minutes left, and I really wanted to get some advice, some tangible advice from you guys over to the audience who are going to be going into their chats. Right after this, they've got 15-minute chats with the recruiters, some of our students who are graduating this year, and others have got some chats text-based as well. So I want to get some advice from you, chiefly about interviewing, but also working virtually. Because obviously there's been this big shift, and some of these students are going to have to go through the entire process from interview to potentially onboarding in a virtual way. So I'm just wondering if you've got any tips surrounding that. I can see Joe's got some.
Well, I was going to say, if you want to talk about working virtually, to start off with, Chris is your man, because he's never been into one of our offices, I don't think.
No.
We did the whole of the campaign was virtual. We created a new graduate campaign because it was planned to be a physical campaign, and we were going to show off our offices and had loads of events planned. They all had to be cancelled at the last minute, so it was all virtual. So Chris is a totally virtual colleague. So I'll let you cover that question.
No pressure, Chris.
If I can cover that one. Our expectations are that we, in this next session, that we have a good conversation with you. So don't feel as if you have to be overly corporate. Don't feel as if you have to be guarded. Certainly my guys who are going to be interviewing you won't be. We found that the best way to get the best out of people is to have a discussion, a conversation, and just relax. And then we can either schedule a much more in-depth discussion afterwards, or point you in the right direction for how best to progress. The other thing is, when you're a graduate, and I know when I was a graduate and I was going out into the marketplace, I didn't, although, you know, eons ago, I didn't have too much to put in terms of professional experience in my CV. So I loaded mine with everything that I'd ever done, including working on a market stall when I was 15, just to give a flavour of who I was. Yeah. Because we're hiring on capability, obviously, in the engineering or technical or arenas. So because it's the type of work that we hire for, but we're also hiring on personality. I think Emma talked about the leadership model previously in the presentation, and that's a key fundamental to how we hire. So the person spec, as well as the technical spec, is critical to us. So please don't be guarded. Please be the real you, and we'll be the real us.
Yeah, so over to me then to touch on the sort of starting a job virtually and interviewing virtually. So I'd say working virtually, I didn't really know what to expect coming in, but it's worked a lot better than I thought it would. Induction process was really smooth, sort of covered everything, got myself up to speed really quickly. And then I suppose what's probably going to be more useful for you is, obviously I had to go through the interview process virtually with Assystem towards the back end of last year. So I think one of my potential tips, and something I found quite useful, was especially being over video, you don't get as much of the non-verbal communication as you would in person. So like necessarily you can't really see what I'm doing with my hands. So I found it really useful to try and emphasize your tone of voice a bit more and think about how you're using your tone of voice to emphasize particular things you've done, and obviously think about how you want to come across enthusiastic. Obviously, some slight downsides to being interviewing virtually, but I think you've also got to try and take some advantage of some of the opportunities that offers. I've always personally found when preparing for an interview, I like to sort of put a mind map together of things I've done and things I can talk about. And obviously one advantage of it being virtual is you can always stick that on the wall in front of you and use it as a little prompt. If you ever get a particularly sort of challenging interview question and you sat there going, oh, I don't quite know, you've always got that little reference in front of you. And sort of don't be afraid to sort of take a bit of a pause before you start answering. You're allowed to have a bit of time to think about your answer before you start giving it.
Oh, really solid advice there. Thank you so much, Chris. And thank you as well, Joe, for explaining that and putting probably a few people's nerves to rest. So we are at the end of the panel discussion now. I honestly could continue this for hours though. So interesting. Thank you all so much for participating, taking time out of your schedules as well to inspire our audience. And to the audience, you now get to go and chat directly to the recruitment team. They've also got content on their virtual store for you to interact with, videos. Head over to the jobs tab so you can see the graduate scheme that's been mentioned throughout the day, get your application in with all of this information fresh in your mind. I'll be sending an email later with the follow-up slides, and we'll link back to that job, so no need to rush anything, but do be taking notes. And yeah, good luck everyone for your conversations. Huge thank you again to our panelists and all of the speakers that we've had at today's event. It's been really fantastic, and yeah, we'll be seeing you very soon. Take care everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.